Tamur, Roger, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tamur, you and I sat here a year ago, and we talked about European air travel in meltdown. So, a year on, what's changed? Are we going to see another summer, lost baggage, lengthy airport queues, missed and cancelled flights? In your opinion, what's changed?
Yeah, I think first of all, this industry is still in the recovery phase in the sense that we are not out of the woods yet. And there are a lot of things to be done still, even in the last weeks before the peak summer travel. I'm expecting overall a better experience than in 22 in the summer, but there's still severe constraints in the industry, as you know, and some of them lasting for years, like the aircraft availability, like the engine issue. A topic that is bigger than last year for sure is the air traffic control topic. So the ATC situation is worse in summer 22. We see the strikes, but we see also lack of staff. And I would say that around a third of all the delays you're currently seeing are actually caused by those ATC bottlenecks. That's a topic that we have not seen. We have also seen before, but it's actually got worse. So the teams are preparing very intensively now for the summer. I think we have made some improvements in terms of communication, improvements in terms of digitalization and self-servicing. New functionalities are coming. And I think we have, that's the good thing, we have a very, as lead for us, and now I speak for Swiss, we have an extremely stable flight schedule. So we don't cancel. We don't cancel flights, not short notice, and very few on the medium long term. So we are very stable, and we aim for 99% stability there. That means no cancellation last 12 weeks. But we are not as punctual as we would like to be due to the other situation. And that's something I think we will also see for this summer season.
I'll come to you in a second, Roger, but I just want to ask something else, Tamur. Lufthansa, another airline within your group, has cancelled 30,000 flights. And you talk about punctuality and trying to keep things moving and avoiding irregular operations, but actually one criticism that has been levelled at you is that by taking out the flights, you're keeping the prices high. How do you respond to that?
Well, the two are not related in this context. The topic is that we clearly see excess demand in this industry. So I'm not so a big fan of revenge travel slogans. It's an excess demand situation where demand is much higher than supply, and the supply is constrained by all these factors. And naturally, the effect is that the price go up. So it's not a deliberate choice. And of course, we're happy if we have at least some compensation of the still higher fuel prices that we see in 2023 versus 2019, substantially higher. So we need to actually have also a certain yield that we actually earn. But the main factor is here that the supply is so much constrained and the demand is so high and continues to be high despite economic cooling worldwide, that we have higher prices. By the way, not as high as some people think. So for us, let's say for Swiss, I can tell you that we are at 15 to 20% on the yields that we earn per passenger kilometer for the comparison to 2019. And we are not higher for the total 23 prediction than 22.
Okay, so we all need to fly Swiss then?
That's the price, which is still, and it depends on now in the inflation and the personal, of course, situation. This may perfectly be different for individual travelers who book at a certain time, have a certain flight pattern. Long haul is more expensive than short haul, but on average, and what we expect for this year, we will be in that range, 15 to 20%, pretty much, I think, in that range. And we will be, for Swiss, I can tell you, not higher than in 22 overall.
Roger, what are some of the things that Finnair has done to kind of ease the situation, the friction that travelers are experiencing a year ago?
What I think has been really interesting, and I think Tamur mentioned some of this, is the increase in self-service. So during COVID, basically we saw a massive shift to how customers first book their flights. So for Finnair, a third of our customers typically used Finnair.com to book their flights. Now it's 2/3. And we expected this explosion of customer service requests and things like that to come. And that did happen during COVID and all the network changes we had to implement at that point, when when countries closed borders and things like that. But now when those are much more stable, we also have much more stable service. What we're seeing is that same on the self-service side. It used to be that 1/4 of our customers were using Finnair.com to either change their booking or check in online or cancel their flight. Now it's 3/4 that are doing that online. And those that know Finnish culture, Finns don't necessarily like to have small talk and meet other people. So it's a very nice experience for the Finns as well in the room that's happening. So I think that's it. It's a stable schedule. The airport is super well prepared for everything that we're doing. I think the issues that we have are very geographical at the moment. It's around France with the air traffic control. It's around London. It's around Amsterdam. In the Northern Europe, you're not quite seeing that same restrictions, except to our eastern neighbors, where it's a different story.
Elephant in the room. Okay, so look, it's not all that the air transport industry has on its agenda right now. NDC is an obvious one, beginning to gain a little traction, which is good to see after 10 years. What's better, Tamur, carrot or stick? Because Lufthansa was the original distribution cost charge instigator.
Yeah, I think it is, in the end, it has to be convenience and value added for the customer. So, and of course, for an airline, is always what can you offer that has this attraction to the customer? And for that, NDC has been a very successful endeavor for us. You know, we started in 2015. We are now in a situation that we actually have 3 out of 4 tickets in the new world. That means either in own sales or in an NDC channel. And of course, and that's also important, it means also for us lower cost, and it means for us the freedom to distribute. That's absolutely important that we have this freedom, no parity clauses, we don't have any kind of content restrictions, and I think that's very important. And overall for us it has been a tremendous success. We continue on the road, and you know the one big topic that's still open for us on the NDC side is on the corporate travel, so where it's more intricate value chain with various players. We have concluded the contracts with the big GDS as well. The other tech players are also in place, and I really see now that for the next year or so, I think there will be hopefully more traction also on the corporate side. That's something we're pushing hard, and that can only be done collaboratively. So it's not the question of carrot or sticks, it's a collaborative approach that needs to be done, and I think that's something where we get now all the stakeholders together.
Okay, and yet you did start with a stick approach.
We started with an approach where in a specific situation we believed in the convenience for the customer, and of course we also use the distribution cost charge to actually open also here the road to the new NDC distribution world. And I think the combination of more content like continuous pricing, green fares now, plus of course new contracts, new commercials, and new technical piping situation, plus of course cost charge was the mix that in the end made it possible. That we came so far as we are, and we're not at the end of the road, as we all know.
No, indeed. Roger, you talk a lot about getting rid of Edifact, and I think you have a June date. Was it around now that you would be? I can't remember what the statistics were.
Still 2 years to go, 2025.
Update us where you are in terms of some flights or some parts of the system. Just give us an update.
Yeah, very good. So our goal is to sunset Edifact. It's this legacy technology. It's 40 years old, invented by the United Nations for banking. Trying to sunset it by the end of 2025, not have duplicate systems running at the same time, move everything to modern distribution, whether it's getting customers to book online or book it through NDC. We have different steps towards getting there, and what we've now announced and what we've also done is we've removed our part of our domestic flying, it's quite sizable in Finland, from Edifact distribution. So it's only available on either .com or through NDC. Is that a stick? I don't know. Is it a carrot? I don't know, but some perceive it as a stick, I would say. But I think we need to make some hard actions. Again, I got an email that you would like frank responses. I think sticks tend to work, unfortunately, a little bit better. You see that also with sustainability and various other things. Collaborative approach is important, but at the end of the day, we need the industry to move. It's too expensive the way it's set up right now, both for the agents, for the GDSs, for us having duplicate systems in place. So again, we're on a accelerated track to end Edifact distribution.
And the other side of all of the NDC thing, and as we move towards offer and orders, that you also have to change your back-end systems. Right. You're in that process, aren't you? Yeah,
so at the same time. So we see our retailing journey 3 parts. So one is you build a really good website, really good app. We've been on that journey for a few years. Again, the results speak for themselves. About 2/3 of our customers choose the app to book their flying. The second is getting rid of the old technology, the Edifact. And the third is then, by doing that, it allows you to completely renew or redesign your back-end systems, which for those in the airline business, know it's incredibly clunky, it's very manual, it's based on paper tickets still, and we want to renew that and bring that into a more modern context. And in order to do that, we've partnered with one of the big technology providers. You will meet also later, Amadeus, in order to get that done. And I think we've been one of the first airlines to publicly announce that we're going on that journey with them.
And you're both part of IATA, International Air Transport Association's coalition towards modern airline retailing for 2030. Sort of less interested in what its goals are, but what is its current priority and what's it actually doing, Tamur?
Yeah, so I think one of the learning of the NEC is that if you go alone, this will not work in this industry. And it takes much longer, and you go to court and you have all those battles, and it took much longer than it should have taken. And this was one of the learning that we identified as we have to do it better. And so when I come up with the idea of a consortium, and I introduced it also to Willie Walsh at that time, I said we need to bring the coalition of the willing across the different competition fields, across the alliances. So we have really from each and every competition field of each alliance, we have here members. All the big airlines many of the big airlines now have joined. And the idea was that this coalition of willing goes faster, more agile, on behalf of the industry. It's not a club. It's something where we want to engage then the whole airline industry, but we also want to engage the other stakeholders very intensively. And we came up with a plan. How far would it go? And so I think the whole consortium has moved quite nicely forward now. So we have identified the joint business case. So what you have to also, of course, argue towards your CFOs. Why is this investment, which is huge for airlines, important? And you have to have a clear rationale of earnings and cost reductions. Secondly, we have already aligned on an architecture standard. That's very important because you need to bring a modular approach where you combine the different modules of this big elephant in stages over several years into a new world. And you now will actually have to define, that's currently happening, what is the transition path there that you actually do practically when two systems are still running parallel. So what is the transition path for us, for the IT? What's the transition path for the industry? These are the next modules we're doing together. And I think I'm quite happy with the progress so far. It's a joint effort. And I think like Rogier is also part of it. So far, so good, I would say. And let's see where it takes us. But it's a long-term topic. It doesn't go quickly. We have to commercialize and also to show some proof cases fairly soon, of course. And this you can do best when you have topics like, for example, modern interlining and things like these, where you can do it together and you set a joint standard initially, so you have a really tangible use case that you can implement.
Okay, Rogier, just two quick follow-ups on that. So do you agree that there's now this willingness to work together?
I think there is. I think from the outside in, it might seem as, it's this small group of airlines that is huddled around.
Or the same group that did the leaderboard previously.
Right, exactly. But it's set up very differently. So the idea is that it's much more engaging with either travel buyers, travel sellers, with the technology providers. It's very little this let's meet internally and then discuss. It's much more about, all right, how do we now engage with travel? So how do we engage with travel buyers? What are the needs? Share them in a really frank and honest way, so that either it builds understanding, well, at least it builds understanding of the position. So we might agree to disagree at the end of the day, but getting better understanding of where each entity is coming from, I think is very helpful in this context. And that will allow us to, again, accelerate the journey towards modern retailing, which, again, it might be a buzzword, but it is very important for us as a wider industry.
What would you say are the limitations of this sort of coalition of the willing? Because there must come a time when you are competitors, you do things differently commercially, so there's only so much you can share.
No, so it's more about the engaging with other stakeholders.
Right.
It's not so much about, and definitely we don't even get close to this, coordinating actions and things like that. It's not about that. It's you see a very diverse group of airlines. Some use carrots, some use sticks. Very different approaches to how things are done.
Right.
But it's about, can we work with travel buyers? Can we work with travel sellers? Can we work with the technology providers in order to accelerate some of this?
So,
go ahead.
Just to add, I think indeed you need to facilitate and you need to collaborate. But currently one important module is also how RFPs will be done. And these RFPs, which are currently out, we just moved into public. So we are an RFP for offers and orders program now. We have about 10 tech providers we are now engaging on this. And this is something where you need to find facilitation for the airlines how to do that. But each airline will do it on its own in the implementation. So the coalition of the willing is going as far as that. also methodologies, also the language between the modules you need to identify, so you have the same language. In the end, we cannot have cacophony of standards. But at this point in time, there's not the plan that we do an entity. So like, for example, BSP has been formed as an entity of INIATA for the airlines. So this is not as far as we go. So there will be still the individual RFPs, and in the center, there's this question of the willing that will facilitate, that will engage the stakeholder community, and that will definitely, I think, be a value-added parallel to the individual efforts of all the airlines.
Okay, let's talk about customer service for a few minutes. You were at a CAPA event with Otto Gerger, I probably haven't said that right, apologies, Otto. He's advisor to the chairman and CEO of Thai Airways, and he said that the industry is in danger of being not customer relevant, but technology relevant. Is that a fair accusation, Roger?
I think we often, and you see that a little bit at the conference as well, we talk a lot about AI and ChatGPT. Again, I think a lot of nerds like myself like to kind of become very technology and focus on that. And we do get a bit drawn into this trap of talking too much about technology and too little about the customer. So it's helpful to, again, every now and then step back, be reminded by our sales colleagues and people and customers themselves about what they want out of this. But I feel we're very customer focused at the same time. And customers, I think, want to engage with us using modern technology. It's what they're used to. We see it in our Net Promoter Score. When a customer buys a ticket on Finnair.com, they tend to be happier. So their NPS score is 20 points higher than if they book through an OTA. And of course, we need to work with the OTAs to increase that. And there's various factors why that is the case. But it's a really sizable gap in terms of Net Promoter Score.
Well, that's interesting. I was going to ask you as well, I recall that you were in Dubai at an Amadeus event, and you were talking about the flywheel effect and getting customers in, and you were making big improvements in your app.
Yeah.
And you wanted it to be a sort of travel concierge. Update us on where you are with that.
Yeah, we wanted to be, so we've had an app for many years. I don't know, it's 8, 9 years old. It's very much focused on being a travel companion, and what we want it to be is more than that. So we want it to be a loyalty platform. And so what you do, again, so Finnair is a mid-sized carrier, but relatively we are huge in Finland. So I'll give you an example. Finland consists of 6 million people. Our frequent flyer member database is 4 million. So of course we have Swedes and things like that being a frequent flyer, but a sizable portion of the Finnish population is a member. So there's an opportunity to do much more with our app, with our .com, with everything digital than we've had previously. So we want to, again, move away from this app just being a travel companion where it allows you to check in, but to do a lot more on your flight, but also through your day-to-day life, basically. And maybe just a final thing to add is our ambition is to become the biggest e-commerce site in Finland. So we are already trending pretty good based on public information. It looks like we are the biggest e-commerce site. And that has caused a massive mindset change internally, where we're bigger than Amazon in Finland, we're bigger than the local electronics store, we're bigger than all the grocery stores that do home delivery. And so we're not an airline that happens to run a website, we are an e-commerce site that happens to have an airline attached to it. And again, that mindset change internally has really helped to think of this very differently than previously.
And similarly, you established the digital hangar, and that was to get sort of these customer service improvements happening more quickly. Is that reaping rewards?
Yeah, I mean, I said that we're getting better on the self-servicing side. So just now we are having much more convenient refund and rebooking processes on our apps. I think that's one example where things go quicker in terms of execution. At the same time, when you ask a question about focus of customer or not, obviously we're coming from a more metal-oriented industry, engineering, and particularly I would say in our homeland, we have that really high competence. And we constantly remind us of that customer topic. But you need to think of the retail value chain always from both sides. And I think it's neither either or. It's always the combination when you think about everything from inspiration to post-flight engagement and the piping of it, as we just discussed. So this combination in the end, give you an example, when we come with new seats, and we already announced that we will also introduce all long-haul seats will be new. In 25 for Swiss now, consistency in all aircraft, that's very important, consistency is very important, that's a customer value. But we think not that we bring another great seat that has certain technical features, and then we say, okay, hopefully you like it, but rather it's an outside-in perspective. What is the experience of the customer in the future instead of just traveling from A to B? What are the experiences? So we have Swiss Sense as an example, which we just launched, and it will be a holistic customer experience with all senses. What you hear, what you see, what you smell. So it's about all these experiences in the culinary, in the sound system, in the lighting concept, not only the air, particularly also on the ground where the bottlenecks are sometimes even worse. So when you look at that and you have an outside-in experience, this is much more than bringing new seats. And this is the way you need to think about it, obviously. It takes a longer time. It's co-creation with the customers, co-creation with your own staff, with your crew, cabin crew, etc. You need to have these kind of work processes established, of course, and that's something where we constantly work. The hunger is one for execution, but you have to have that in all your product development and also service development topics in the whole, basically, company.
Okay, look, we've got a few minutes left. I want to talk about sustainability. There's a lot of things happening in the area. Delta's got a lawsuit going on. You know, more and more conversations going on, more and more challenges. The industry is always flagged as a big polluter, fairly or unfairly. What do we need to do? Do we need to change our messaging? What is it that we need to do, Roger?
I think the challenge we have is when we have an offsetting product. I'm sure Swiss has the same. Many airlines have an offsetting solution that you can either buy, plant forests, or you can buy sustainable aviation fuel on your website. For Finnair, 1 in 200 customers actually buys an offset. It's staggeringly little. Customers, even though we would like it to be different, unfortunately often vote much more with our wallet than with the sustainability mindset. Right. That's why I said earlier, I feel that there has to be a European approach to this. That has to be more focused on legislation and things like that. Again, it's very much a personal perspective how this is fixed. We need to be very mindful of things like how we communicate this to customers, greenwashing. We get accused of that quite a bit. Yeah. We try to avoid that as much as possible. But we need to talk about sustainability and the things we're doing. And again, it's small steps that eventually will add up to us as an industry being net zero at a certain date. And we hope to get there earlier, but...
And at the same time, we have messaging around, or Ryanair, for example, it wants to increase to 300 million passengers by 2034. I think it's 172 million now. I mean, that's a contradiction with the sort of sustainability and sustainable travel messages, isn't it, Tamur?
Well, first of all, I think the perception in the public is against aviation in a way that is still a much higher perception of the CO2 footprint that we have. That's not the excuse, because we have these 40,000 aircraft coming to the market until 2040 and many, many passengers, so we have to manage it. It's a challenge, it's a raison d'etre that we have to challenge, and we have to be better in the communication, but we have set goals now. And we have to now, I think, be much more clearer on how to reach it. And that means also towards the public institutions. We need to get different forms of support. And the one big topic that we definitely need as a collective, as an industry, the travel industry, we need to tackle with more urgency is the sustainable aviation fuel topic. Yeah. This is the one big topic that replaces ideology with technology. There is a technological solution to it. It is still too expensive and still takes too long. We all know that. It's going to be very tough. But I think we need to multiply our efforts, really on all efforts, towards the customer, willingness to pay. There will be the mandatory element coming towards the stakeholder of course, in the industry, the oil companies as well, and of course towards the government officials and to the government institutions at all levels where we need to lobby much harder. So we're not doing it enough yet, and this challenge will not go away. So, and we see this rather as a question of life and death for the future, for our industry. We have to make this absolute priority. Sustainable aviation fuel is the big topic we need to push together. Okay,
we've got about a minute left, so 30 seconds each. ChatGPT, you see that, you know all of the technological problems you've got going on, you know the transformations you're trying to do, you've got to fit NDC into that, offer an order. Does something like generative AI, does it frighten the life out of you?
It's maybe the first technology that I felt was very impactful. I have the same, I think it was Arjen from Booking.com who mentioned, he's been around with big data. A lot of consultancies come with all these big ideas. This is the first one that I get anxious of and excited at the same time. Yeah. Because there's so much potential, and I know, same thing as the person from Skyscanner said, a lot of AI is done already in the company, but this will be, I think, very cool. I use it on a weekly basis myself to proofread things and things like that. it will be, and my kids will use it a lot, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. So we need to get ready for it.
They'll be generative AI natives, won't they?
Yes.
Tamur?
When you asked me, the question came up before, is it a hype or is it changing everything? I lean towards the changing everything. Rather, we will see what comes up, and it's also good to have several horses in the race, not just one. I think that's something we're doing with our task forces and use cases that we are applying. And I think we need to rethink a little bit what is meaning of ChatGPT, or better to say large language models within the generative AI now in our in our commercial and customer universe for travel. And now setting aside all those efficiency and productivity topics that each and every one of us will be affected with, and your teams will be affected with, be it the co-pilot in your email preparation and so on, the coding as a new job that will be a prompt engineer or whatever, that's aside. What is actually meaning for us in travel? And we heard a lot about the early funnel part, so inspiration, consideration, search, booking, servicing, of course. It probably affects more parts of it. It's also a question of distribution, placement questions. So what is the future of a marketplace and what kind of segmentation we do there? What's the role of platforms? Will that change as well? And of course, what tool sets and AI technologies we will apply therein. So there's a lot of, I think, open thinking now that's possible. And I'm very excited about it. We have first use cases out there.
Yeah.
One example, is a very simple one, is that we had the Deep Blue versus Kasparov game, in that case, ChatGPT, as I said, several horses in the race. And Google is, I think, catching up. But the way, of course, the Deep Blue was winning. In this case, a newsletter that was created by ChatGPT supervised. But the point was not that it was faster and had a higher opening rate. The point was, after one refinement process, and that's always a question of convenience, context, and conversation in the end. After one refinement process, we engaged different types of customer groups with this newsletter, and we doubled the opening rate. So it was not just the gradual, it was actually a doubling of opening rate, and this is something which shows me the potential, which is definitely there. But think of it wider in the retail value chain, not just think of inspiration. It brings in the convenience factor many aspects of travel together, and I think there's lots of good stuff that we will see in the next months and years, so I'm totally fascinated by it.
Gentlemen, we're standing between the audience and a coffee. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.